Former Governor Mitt Romney, 2010 income tax returns, when filed, they paid $6.2 million, and they accumulated $4.2 million of wealth. So that was a 13.9% tax. And they estimate in 2011, which they'll file, of course, in April, like the rest of us, they'll pay about 15.4% in 2011 taxes, the lowered tax coming from capital gains through their investments. Now, what is your view of that as we go to one of our favorite guests who we've had, David Selig, who was New York tax practitioner and founder of TrueTaxHelp.com. David, good afternoon.
Hey, Governor. Thank you for having me on the program. As always, it's a pleasure.
Now, there's nothing wrong with anything former Governor Romney did. That's the tax code as it stands now. Should that come as a surprise to anybody?
No, it shouldn't. But if I may, I would like to make a couple of points to your listening audience. First of all, there is an argument presently being bandied about that it is unfair. They are juxtaposing the long-term capital gains rate, which is 15%, against the regular income rate, which is significantly higher. But it is abundantly fair, and I will give you a perfect example. If, let's say, you had a ditch digger, a grocery store clerk, and an English professor, and they all invested their money, and they kept that money invested for more than a year, they would still be entitled to that same 15% rate on their investment, long-term capital gains. But their income would be taxed at a higher rate. So they're really treating everybody with an even hand. It is a facile argument, and it seems to be made just to polarize the populace. It's very unfair.
Well, it is thought to be, and the charges have been made that this is the class warfare. But when you are accumulating a great amount of money through your investments,
yes.
In other words, the lower investment rate, we presume, is to encourage people to invest.
Exactly.
All right, but now you've invested, and you got back a load of money. So why wouldn't we set a bar at which if you go over it, you'd be taxed at a higher rate because it, in effect, now has become income?
Mm-hmm. I certainly understand the argument. I just disagree with it. You have to also take into consideration that the larger investors, they are really working hand in hand with the government. Their monies fuel startups. They keep businesses operating. And that money, it's like putting their bread on the water. It comes back. But I want to point this out and be perfectly clear about it. These super investors, if you will, you can almost liken them to those stories about how the government gets ripped off buying a $400 toilet seat. The reality is the majority of these people who rely on these long-term capital gains, you have a lot of seniors, they're middle-class individuals. They use that money to supplement their income frequently, to buy food and shelter, and an increase. If you were to treat these long-term capital gains as regular income, well, I mean, I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but it would strip poor old grandma of her dignity and potentially put her wrinkled rear end right back on the dole, and nobody wants that.
In other words, because of the interaction between the larger investors and government.
Absolutely, and the argument right now is that since your money is working for you, you should treat that as regular earned income, and I just believe that is a false argument, and I think it would be deleterious to us and our economy. I would also remind your listening audience that we are scheduled to have a significant increase. January 1st, 2013, we're going up a whopping 10%. So the long-term capital gain will be at 25%.
Now, let me ask you something. If the capital gains are 15%...
Only long-term, sir.
Yeah.
Short-term is regular income rates.
Yeah, okay. But right now, it's 15%. How did Romney's taxes get down to 13.9%? Now, I'm not putting Romney down. I'm just asking.
Well, it's an aggregate number. What they did is they took the adjusted gross income and juxtaposed it next to his average income. What he did was he contributed, $3 million to charity. Everything he did was completely on the up and up.
Oh, so that's why he's able to subtract that amount.
That is correct. And the way it works is because he presumably is in 35% tax bracket, he could only deduct 35 cents of every dollar contributed. So a lot of people are running around saying, well, he gave $3 million, but he deducted the full $3 million. That's just not true.
No, come on.
No, but a lot of people feel that way, Governor.
Yeah, no, that's one of the problems probably that his people had about releasing the tax returns, not because they thought they'd done anything wrong, but they thought it would be spun in such a way that it would make him look like he was... It would just take his tax returns and make the whole tax code fight over him,
sure,
which obviously hurts him as a candidate. So let me ask you this. Suppose for the larger investors, or where it's shown that there is a relationship with the government, that there was a tax credit there, but that just those who made a lot of money on investing, and particularly, let's say, if a certain percentage of your investment came from your earnings came from that, as opposed to regular earnings, would there be a way to make that adjustment so that people just don't get the feeling that those who had the most power rewrote the tax code to give themselves a break?
Well, I certainly understand what you're saying, and we're probably thinking about these trust fund babies who inherit large sums of money, and the perception is they never work a day in their lives, and yet they're paying less.
And although many of them are very philanthropic, and these are people I know,
they do great
but the reality is some of them don't give anything to anybody.
That's true, but you're going to find that across the whole spectrum. You have some very poor people who are extraordinarily charitable, and some poor people who are just outright stingy.
Oh, absolutely. I know them.
Yes, sir.
Well, listen, I think you've added some clarity for us today, David. David Selig has been our guest, and we call on him for these tax matters from time to time, and he is always a voice of reason around here. And he's also the founder of TrueTaxHelp.com. Go to it and take a look at it. And, David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Governor, and God bless your listening audience.
Oh, thank you. And we'll be back to talk to that audience at 800-321-0710. We're going to step out for a break and then to you.